Hello, good evening, and welcome back. Here we go again. Is lockdown about to get tougher? Well, I suppose the return of Tony Blair might have something to do about it. Yes, I'm not kidding. As in, the gentleman who, by all accounts, should be a prosecuted war criminal by now, but so far is just an alleged war criminal, who left politics over a decade ago, and thank goodness for that, who the Queen has suspended honours in order to ensure that he does not get any. Maybe it's got something to do with him. But we'll get to that in a minute. First, how about we go down, what do they mean by getting tougher? Well, Matt Halfcock refuses to roll out curfews, a 1-hour outdoor exercise limit, compulsory masks outside, and closing nurseries or axing support bubbles if COVID cases keep rising. I see they've been looking out to Australia, Victoria and Melbourne in particular. So the point of this is not that lockdowns need to get tougher. What he's saying is that the policy as it stands would work fantastically if only people followed it. Don't you know that the government ideas are always ideal and formidable and unstoppable if only people didn't keep getting in the way? That the government, even the Conservative government, they've got the best ideas. They know exactly how to handle everything. It's just these blasted people, the people that have elected them, they keep getting in the way of their utopia. That's what they're saying. And he's looked to Australia for inspiration, evidently. And, of course, not just Tony Blair, but the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, attacked mixed messages from ministers over lockdown. And fucking hell, he is just going hell for leather, isn't he? Keir Starmer. I mean, as reprehensible as the gentleman may be, you've got to respect his tactics. That Bojo's going to come out saying one thing, and then he is going to stand on what he views his principles and say the opposite. And then Bojo is going to cower and do exactly what Labour want him to do. So for all intents and purposes, we've just voted in Labour. And then Sir Keir Starmer, in order to ensure that he actually gets power instead of just the de facto leader, comes out and says, well, hey, there are mixed messages here, because you're saying one thing, I say something else, and then you do what I say. And that's mixed messages. He's taking no prisoners. And you've got to respect those tactics, even if you don't respect the person. Bloody hell. He said nurseries probably should be closed, like primary and secondary schools, but Matt Halfcock refused to speculate on strengthening lockdown rules further. And bloody hell, Sir Keir Starmer should not be getting this much attention. He really shouldn't. I mean, looking at how much press attention he's getting compared to old Bojo there, he seems to be getting more of it. And the amount that Bojo gets is simply because he's done what Keir Starmer asked him to do. Told him to do. There we go. Demanded him to do, if you will. And that's what we're seeing here. So, moving forward, moving backward, actually, if you will, then what has Matt Halfcock done in order to say that these kind of things might happen? Well, it came as the senior government science advisor. Bear in mind, they've now gone to NervTag instead of SAGE. Of course, Professor Neil Ferguson, the guy who's been wrong half a dozen of times by a factor of between 100 and 1 million every single time. As in, I'm not sure if he's ever been correct in his life. He seems to be bad with the decisions he makes. And that includes affairs with married women. I don't normally go into personal life, but when they overlap with his professional life so much, perhaps it's worth breaking down as a character understanding. But someone who's been wrong that many times, of course, it was only down to his individual character failings that he was then let go from SAGE. Okay, fair enough. But SAGE, that's a reliable committee, right? We're still going to follow them. Oh, hang on. There's this new upcomer. What's that? NervTag? Oh, right. Okay. For the new and emerging respiratory virus committee group thing. Right, okay. Who's a part of that? Oh, I see. Professor Neil Ferguson has joined that group. Funny that. And now we see Tony Blair was dipping his fingers into the pies as well. I think the illusion of democracy has been showcased as a sham by now, surely. Because you're trying to vote in people, and then you get the other party, right? So you try and keep people to account, then they leave, but then they rejoin under a different name, and people go with that group, the politicians go with that group instead. So, what is the bloody point of our votes if you do the exact opposite of what we vote for? It's a worthwhile question, surely. And yes, I know there has been talk about deep state and things will always grow as the elites intend them to be. However, I don't think it's ever been quite so blatant as it is now. As in, listening to defamed previous prime ministers from the opposition, as well as the current opposition, as well as somebody who has been let go and is now joined a different group, and now that is the one being listened to. At what point do you really ask yourself, does my vote mean anything? And I don't mean because there were millions of other voters, but I mean because it doesn't seem to be making the blindest bit of difference whatsoever. And when peaceful democracy becomes impossible, we all know what happens next. So, instead we're focusing on Professor Peter Horby, the chairman of the new and emerging respiratory virus threats advisory group, there we go, nerve tag, said if there's any sign that they're not, then we're going to have to be even stricter, as in them lowering, cases lowering. The UK announced a further who gives a shit. Halfcock appeared on Andrew Marr programme this morning, where he was asked about a range of measures that could be brought in. Marr asked, are you considering things like curfews, closing nurseries, ending some of those support bubbles, going back to only an hour of exercise outside, and telling people in crowded outdoor spaces to wear masks? Yes, outdoor spaces. Are those the kind of things that you could consider if you couldn't get this under control very quickly? Halfcock replied, well, I don't want to speculate, because the most important message is not whether the government will further strengthen the rules. The most important thing is that people stay at home and follows the rules that we've got. Yes, exactly. Isn't that right, Mr. Halfcock? You don't need to change what you're doing. It's just those darned people keep getting in the way of your utopia. And surely you would have hoped, you would have thought, you would have believed, maybe even dreamt then, that at some point the government will go, hey, guys, settle down. Okay, I know you're annoyed, I know you're angry, I know how you're feeling. Fair enough. I understand. It's been a rough ride. And I apologise for my part in that. I really do. However, this is the situation we find ourselves in. Okay? COVID cases, COVID deaths are exactly as you see them now. You can look into them, research them on your own if you don't trust our methods. That's perfectly fine. Here is what we say you need to do from our understanding in order to keep you safe. It's these rules, it's this layout, follow it. We bet our jobs on it, you'll be kept safe. Don't follow it, then you'll die or someone you love will die. Simple as that. Okay? And it seems we've been telling you this for quite a while now, and you haven't been following it. At which point, we cannot be held accountable for your actions. Okay? We're going to tap out of this. We're going to leave it to you. We've told you what we think you should do, and if you do not wish to follow it, that's on you, not on us. Instead of that, they're just saying, no, don't look into it yourself, just believe us, trust us, and do what we tell you to do, because then you'll be fine, and oh, you're not doing enough of what we say, therefore we're going to enforce it more, because we're always correct and you'll always be wrong. Except you voted for us, that bit was correct, yeah, that bit was good. Everything else, though, that was wrong. Individual thought, what a laughable thought. That is the message that he's leading here. It really is. But please comment down below if you disagree. I'd love to hear otherwise. Please, white pill me. So Horby told the same Professor Horby told the same programme the new variant discovered in Kent that appears far more transmissible than older strains of COVID has made the situation more risky. Asked what being even stricter meant in practice, he said, well, I think the principles haven't changed. There's no evidence that this virus is being transmitted in any different way. It's just that people, when they've got it, have got more virus, so every contact is more risky. So the same principles apply. It's about decreasing social contacts, and if there are unavoidable social contacts, then being as strict as you can about distance and face masks and hand hygiene and ventilation, etc. Fair enough. And that seems to be a far more balanced view. Just say, well, yeah, it's just the same but more transmissible. So if you don't want to get it, and if you don't want your loved ones to get it, then be more careful. But it's on you. But with the NHS, we can't do that. But you already know my thoughts on that. So Mar asked, thinking back to March and the spring, I can remember you could only go out for an hour, for instance, for any kind of exercise. And there are much stricter rules about meeting other people. Are those the kind of things we might see coming back if we don't get this under control now? To which Horby replied, yes, that's right. You know, we have seen in the past very strict measures do work, and if the current measures aren't strict enough, then it's clear what we have to do. And that is honestly who the government are listening to. Somebody saying that, yeah, you know, there's lockdowns before. Yeah, they definitely worked. It's like, oh, cool. Were they the 2 weeks to flatten the curve so the NHS wasn't overwhelmed and we can get back to work? No, not quite, but they definitely worked. Oh, cool. Is that why we don't have to bother with any new lockdowns? No, but they definitely work. Oh, cool. Is that why we don't need to bother with face masks now because we didn't before? No, but they definitely work. So, oh, okay, cool. So are you saying that everybody should stay inside and not go outdoors for any reason and instead just get some rations delivered of whatever you decide is good for diet? Because Lord knows that with the food pyramid you created, it hasn't seen an increase in diabetes and heart disease. Except, of course, it fucking has because of lobbying. But no, definitely, this time you're going to be correct, right? And then we should just stay inside and just be pleased with everything that you give us and not have any freedom whatsoever. And then, and only then, this will be saved and we can all be free again. So, yeah, something like that. Great. Well, that's not a world I want to live in. Because you've already told us what 2 weeks means to you. It means nearly a year, doesn't it? So if you're saying, but if we all stay inside for just 2 weeks and we don't communicate or come into contact with anybody else, then we're all going to be fine. In theory, that sounds correct. If there's only a 2 week incubation period for the virus, then if everybody was kept at home and didn't go out at all whatsoever for 2 weeks, that would work. Yeah. But we all know people aren't going to follow these rules. And even if they are, there's always going to be a way around it. For example, if somebody's in their garden, they sneeze over the fence and it continues along, then who knows where it's going to end up. Or what about if there's a dog or a cat or a pet or even a rodent, and then they spread it around, just like rats did with the plague. Then it's going to be spread around anyway. So there's always going to be something that is going to slip through your fingers as the authoritarians that you wish you were. So it's just not going to work, is it? In practice, it really isn't. In theory, theory works. But in practice, it really doesn't. And then, of course, we got to add in Sir Keir Starmer. He earned his knighthood, one way or another. And let's respect that. As a Briton, as a proud Englishman, I will respect a knighthood. Not based on the individual, but based on the title. Sir Keir said, they are tough and they're necessary, but they may not be tough enough. In a sense, I think the most important thing is people get their message about stay at home. And it's up to the government to put that message out there the whole time. We've had mixed messages, I'm afraid, for the last 9 months, which is why we've got a problem. I would like to see the Prime Minister out there every day with a press conference making sure that message is absolutely getting through. Well, hey, you don't need Nostradamus, you don't need me to try and pretend to predict the future because you got Sir Keir Starmer right here telling you what's going to happen. And, of course, you'd be forgiven for thinking that he is the Prime Minister. So, actually, Sir Starmer, do we need the Prime Minister out there every day giving a press conference? Or do you think you could do it because you're basically doing his job now anyway? I mean, you might as well. But yeah, he's not the only Labour leader or ex-Labour leader pulling the strings, is he? No, because you got the return of Tony Blair. Ex-Labour leader and three-term Prime Minister is advising Matt Hancock and other Tories on vaccine strategy because he believes he can improve inadequate leadership, according to his top aide. And bear in mind, Farage also mentioned that, hey, instead of giving people 2 doses, seeing as it's 80% effective with just 1 dose, how about we focus on giving people 1 dose and just take it from there? And who was it that suggested that? Well, it was Tony Blair. And Nigel Farage is going to give credit where it is due. If somebody, even the opposition, has an idea that is worth sharing, then he wishes to share it, and he will credit the person who had the idea. Fair enough. Right. Is Tony Blair the only person who had that idea? No, of course he bloody well isn't. Does that mean that he has to squeeze his way back in to the government? No, it doesn't. Do you think that his speaking fees are kind of drying up and he needs some more influence? Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. So, according to his top aide, Mr. Blair is a powerful figure in the fight to use vaccines to save lives and the economy. More like to push his vision. Sunday Times said he offered strategic advice to Hancock several times. Mr. Hancock did not deny the claim, saying he speaks to a lot of people. And if you've ever seen Cobra Kai, here's a fine example of crease right here. So, Blair stepped down as leader as an MP 13 years ago. And yet, he's back to offer strategic advice. Please leave. The point of leaving the EU was that we didn't have to rely on people, on unelected bureaucrats. And yet, look who's back. So a friend of the former Prime Minister, his top aide essentially, told the Sunday Times Tony believes deeply, as do many of the people around him, that he left office at the peak of his powers. Yes, because they all view it as power. He got better at governing as time went on. 10 years later, he is definitely animated by a burning feeling that the British government is inadequate. He feels that he has the drive and ideas to change that. Fantastic, get back into politics, try and join Labour, see if they vote for you. Oh, they won't, because they believe you're a war criminal, because of the fact of the matter of what you've done. Right, start another party, like Reclaim, Reform, or Heritage. Oh, you don't want to do that. Right. Instead, you just wish to squeeze your way in, based on corruption. Yeah, we don't appreciate that. We really don't. But it goes on. He feels that he has the drive and ideas to change that. Yes, just because he lost the vote doesn't mean that he's wrong. You definitely want him around again. The gall of these people. I mean, hey, good on you for bloody well trying it on. If people don't object and you can get away with it and you get paid for it, then, I mean, bloody well, more power to you. And fucking lost less power to the people who let you get away with it. Fucking hell. Fucking hell. We elect leaders to lead and to not be jeopardised by a cunt such as this. This is why they're, quote unquote, in power. But he went on, of course, claiming it's not complicated. On live TV, he launched a blueprint for improving the country's vaccine rollout. The restrictions could ease significantly in February if the NHS scales up to millions of jabs every week. Yes, of course, they'll promise you something better and they'll not mention the cost. That is what communists do all the time. As supplies flow into the country in the coming weeks, Mr. Blair said, officials should strain every sinew to make sure every dose is used as soon as possible. He says there should be pop-up vaccine centres and mobile ones, that pharmacies should be used and volunteers recruited en masse. And I hate giving credit to warmongers. I really do. Especially to lefties like Blair or other socialists or even communists. I really do hate giving credit to them. However, when they see that power vacuum that Bojo, Halfcock have left, then you've got to understand that they're going to want to fill it so that they're the ones responsible instead of one of their ideological enemies. So you can understand that, even if you don't agree with it or respect it. And so it really comes down to somebody else trying to fill the void instead of somebody like Tony Blair. And yet, that's what we've got. So as I said before, we cannot trust our government to do what is best for us, and instead we have to try to make that change ourselves. It seems as if Tony Blair heard that message, one way or another, and decided to capitalise on it himself. And I can't blame him for it. And instead, I'm just going to do what I can to try and remind people about who he is, what he's done, and why we can't trust him. Because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Sure, even a broken clock is correct twice a day. Sure, he might actually have some good ideas. Yes. I'm not going to suggest that he's an idiot. Of course, by extension, that means I must suggest that he's at least slightly evil. But nonetheless, not an idiot. That's fine. That doesn't mean that he's trustworthy. And that's what we've got to remember. So by all means, listen to him. Listen to people all across the spectrum. All sorts of spectrums, as Halfcock says. Go ahead and review each idea individually and understand if it is worthwhile to follow or not. Fair enough. But do understand that if you're listening to Tony Blair instead of other people who have the same ideas in this regard or similar ideas, at least in this regard, then you're letting in someone that I don't think you can really control. And it's in your best interests to leave him alone and turn to someone else instead. I know it seems like you've got nothing because Bojo has been letting you down. But you won a landslide election. So don't look left, look right. Well, that's it for me. So as always, let me know what you guys think down below with regards to, do you think that new lockdown measures will come into place? Maybe we should just as well listen to Sir Starmer and Tony Blair instead of Bojo and Halfcock because they're the ones actually running this show. Either way, let me know down below. Always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. And as always, until next time, have a good one.